right, this is Mike Wall. Welcome back to another episode of the Agent Revolution podcast. Got a little ahead of myself there. Presented by Mike Wall Live, the place where we deconstruct the biggest challenges facing today's real estate agents so that they can build a sustainable, profitable, but most of all, fulfilling real estate business. Super excited today. I've got my friend Stacey Randall. We're going to show you how to get referrals without having to beg, borrow, steal, plead, or even ask. So if you're interested in doing more referral business, you're in the right place. Don't forget, you can get more free. Actually, we have 8 hours worth of free real estate training over at meetmikewall.com. Stacey, are you ready to rock and roll?
I am very ready. Let's do this.
Let's do this. So everybody knows I always start the show, and I want to figure out, obviously today's topic is referrals, and I know people are excited to jump into that. But I'd like to learn a little about the person I'm interviewing, how they got where they are, their whole story. You know, and oftentimes I joke because most realtors, and I interview a lot of real estate agents, no one ever goes to school or high school or college thinking, you know what, one day I want to be a real estate agent, unless, somehow they came up in a real estate family. And so it's funny because everybody has a unique story on how they got into real estate. So give us your unique story on how you got into this whole generating referrals without asking.
Yeah, so I would love to tell you that I just woke up one morning with like a stroke of brilliance and was like, hey, I am going to figure out how to get referrals without asking. Unfortunately, that's not how it happened. And the truth is, the way that I came up with my strategy that I've been teaching now for over 8 years, but the way that I came up with it was because I actually had a business that failed. So I grew up in an entrepreneurial family, but they were the crazy kind of entrepreneurs because they all owned restaurants or they were in the hospitality world. So I can call restaurant owners crazy because literally, at one point in my life, I was the granddaughter, the niece, the wife, the sister, all of restaurant owners. So I get to call them crazy because I lived through it. Yeah. But so I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, right? So I started my first business. It was an HR consulting firm, big name clients like BDO and Ally Bank and some really heavy hitters. And I enjoyed what I did, but that business would actually fail after just over 4 years. And I had to go back to corporate America. So if you've ever been free and then had to go back to corporate America, it's a really tough transition. Sure. And I remember saying, okay, I got to figure out how to get out of here. I can't live in corporate America forever. And actually I worked for a really great company and liked the people. But I was like, but this isn't where I want to be. And so I knew the one thing that made my first business fail, I was going to have to fix if I was ever going to have a successful business number 2. And so for me, it really came down to when I decided to go back out on my own and leave corporate America. It took about 18 months. I tried to get out as fast as I could. I really knew, hey, you got to figure out how to fill this pipeline of prospects, of people who have the potential to say yes to working with you. And you can't go feast or famine, right? You can't get on the roller coaster where you're always hustling for the next deal. And then you put your head down and you look up when it's done, you're like, wait, there's no more work, right? There's no more deals. I don't have anything else. So
yeah, because then you'd be a real estate agent.
It's funny. I actually used to be a real estate agent. So I know it very well. I always did it. I did it. I worked full time, and it was before I was married and had kids. And I just don't do bored very easily. So I actually got certified nights and weekends, and then did real estate on the side. But it was 2006, so it was really easy, right? Yeah. It was a really easy market to be successful in. But I did it until about 2009, 2010. Once I had children, I was like, this isn't going to work for me because I was also trying to build another business too. Yeah. So, anyways, my business failed. Corporate America, left, started a second business, said, okay, we got to figure this filling the pipeline of prospects thing out. So I looked around like everybody else does, and I'm like, well, I know these ways, right? The networking, the free speaking engagements, right? The going to every leads group possible. I know those ways to build a business. But now I'm a mom of 2 and eventually a third. I was like, I don't have that kind of time. I've got to figure out how to generate leads in a way that works for me, that doesn't take a lot of money because I was starting over again and I didn't have a budget. And so referrals, right? That's what everybody tells you. Oh, well, just go get some of those referrals. They're great, right? Those clients that just show up, they're so excited to be referred to you, and they just say yes to working with you. Yeah. And I was like, great. How do I get me some of those? And I did like everybody does, right? I read books and I went to the all-knowing Google and searched articles and I looked at sales training, and everybody taught, predominantly everybody taught and has been teaching for decades, I would say generations. Hey, if you want referrals, just go ask for them. And Mike, the most dangerous thing they say is, and if you're not willing to ask, if you're uncomfortable asking, if you won't ask, well, then you just don't get any. And I thought to myself, everybody I know hates the idea of asking for referrals. Why is that the predominant advice? And why hasn't there been something else figured out? So as I'm starting my second business, I'm like, okay, what's the opposite of asking, right? And I realized it's the relationship you have with your referral sources. It's ultimately why somebody will end up referring you, and that they have someone they want to help, which is why they need to refer you. And I was like, okay, well, let me just focus on that. And that's what I did. I started my second business. It was a productivity and business coaching practice. I started that second business and I got 112 referrals my first year in business without asking. Generated over 100 referrals every year since. And a number of years ago, I did a massive pivot to just teaching the people that I was coaching. They're like, how are you growing? And I was like, oh, I'm getting all these referrals. And they're like, thanks for the productivity. Like, I love your email tips, but can you show me how you're getting referrals so easily and doing it without asking? And then everything changed. And then that's what I've been doing now for the last number of years, is teaching people that, hey, yeah, you know what? You can get referrals if you want them, and you can get them without asking.
Yeah, it's so cool. And we talked a little bit before the show, and I admire you. I'm very envious because I started in this business, and my wife and I met at Ohio State. We moved back to Springboro, where she's from. I didn't have a huge network here because I grew up in Texas, and not that that's an excuse, but I was actually more comfortable getting on the phones and calling people I didn't know. And so I built my business that way. And it wasn't until year maybe 3 or 4 that we actually got intentional about our past client database, right? Mm-hmm. And I question myself even to this day, because it doesn't make any sense that I was actually more willing to talk to strangers than I was my own personal network, who already knew, liked, and trusted me. And I often still think, why would I have done that way? But it had to happen for a reason, right? And so here I am today. And I told you, over the last 2 years or so now, we've gotten a lot more intentional about being able to market to our past client database for referrals. And I so thought, your timing, or that our timing today was perfect, because I haven't done a show on referrals in a while. I think the audience will take a lot from it. I'll take a lot from it. And quite honestly, like, everybody watching this would much rather go on an appointment where they walked in the door, and essentially in, 99.9% of the time, you've already got the business because they've been referred to you by a trusted resource, or you've already created that credibility or influence so that they're ready to sign the paperwork. And a lot of us, myself included, have gone on appointments where we're talking to an expired or a for sale by owner, right? Where, you might be interviewing against 3 or 4 other agents, and it's just no way to have a career, especially when other people are going and sitting on referral appointments and just, basically making small talk and signing a listing and going on their way.
Right. Well, so let me first say, because you're absolutely right. From all those things that you said, especially for the feeling that, why would I be willing to get on the phone and call people I didn't know versus, get referrals or generate referrals from the people I do know? Actually, Mike, that puts you in the majority. The majority of people are really concerned, and they can't always articulate it, but what they don't do when they're like reaching out to their existing network and would rather go make a cold call, or would rather go call expired, right? Or rather go call for sale by owners, is because they don't know how exactly they're supposed to protect this relationship they have with this person in their network. But they know their gut is telling them, don't be weird, right? Don't make it uncomfortable. Don't make it awkward, because this is a relationship you need to protect. And unfortunately, the asking advice, which is what we're typically always taught, the asking advice makes it weird and makes it the ick factor and makes everybody uncomfortable. So we inherently know, it's like, I don't want to mess up this relationship with this person that I know, particularly when we're new, right? Like, well, maybe when I'm more mature in this business, I'll be better at it. But it's because we are respectful innately without knowing how to articulate it. We're trying to be respectful of this relationship with someone we do know. And that is key. I mean, that is such a key piece to understanding that is an important part of developing a network of people who will eventually one day refer you if you do it the right way. And it makes perfect sense to me when you say, I'd rather go pick up the phone. I'm like, most people actually, a lot of people don't want to pick up the phone either. They just want the business to like show up magically, right? Yeah. But the reality of it is that's actually a very normal way to feel.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, again, for me, you're right. I think many people don't want to pick up the phone. They don't want to talk to anybody. They just want the business to magically appear. And Hopefully those people didn't show up today because they're not going to take much from this. But, to your point, it's like, I think it's kind of you just explained exactly how I felt. Is I didn't want to engage somebody that I felt I had done a good job for and try to put a kink in that relationship, because everything had ended well. We'd done a good job. They were glad they did business with me. And it didn't feel right to go back to them and say, hey, now can you give me something, right? And it just feels weird. And I know, granted, there are a lot of realtors that make a lot of money doing that. And maybe that's a mindset shift that I needed to have. But what I think intrigued me about the idea of, getting referrals without asking, to me, that just seems like at least a good stepping stone to get to the point to where I felt comfortable asking people for referrals, right? And for me, it maybe, like I said, it needs to be a mindset shift, because if I need to look at it as though I would be doing them a disservice if they felt I did a good job for them and they didn't refer me to their friends, acquaintances, family members, because if I could do a good job for them, then my duty would be also to do a good job for those people in their personal network.
Yeah. Okay. So let me unpack some of those thoughts that you have, because they're so common and almost everybody has them. There's this idea that, like, okay, if I do a good job for you, then of course I would be able to do a good job for the other people you know. And so if you're not referring me, it's probably A, because I'm not asking, or B, because maybe I didn't deserve it. Right. Those are both very false things. Right. And that's what everybody believes. Everybody believes, like, hey, if I do a great job for my client, and what if they even tell me that I did a great job and they loved working with me, but yet they then never refer me, it's got to be because I'm not asking them. Actually, the opposite is true, right? If you were to start asking that client for referrals, you then immediately commoditize your relationship with that past client. All of a sudden, every conversation you have from that point forward, they're waiting in the back of their mind for you to get around to the question where you're going to ask them if they know anybody who needs help buying or selling a home. Right. They almost start to anticipate it, and they're like, okay, we're just not going to answer the phone anymore when Mike calls. Yeah. Because I don't want to avoid that question. The other thing is that I don't care how amazing you are in your job, not all of your clients are going to refer you. So lighten up on yourself and stop feeling like everyone's going to refer you. There are people who think more referral based than others. There are people who naturally connect people and they can't help themselves. They do it in their sleep probably. And then there are some who never actually think about referring someone, even if they think that person did an amazing job. Yeah. I mean, I teach people how to generate referrals without asking. Like in my program, that's what I teach people for a living. And not all of my students ultimately end up referring me. Of course, lots do, but it's not like I'm expecting 100% of everybody that works with me to also refer me. Yes, I would love it, but you got to release that pressure and be like, but not everybody's actually wired to. And some people are more likely to refer than others. So when you think about why aren't my clients referring me, and you can just set aside, okay, it's not because I'm not asking, because that's bad. At least that's the way I talk about it, right? There are others who would disagree with me. I respect that. You're also in the minority. But there are definitely, from that perspective, people are thinking, well, if I'm not asking, that's why they're not giving them to me, right? Or maybe I didn't really do that great of a job. And then the reality of it is actually asking them shortchanges what you could actually receive from them. And not all will refer you. So let's focus in on the ones that will. And what I tell folks is this really comes down to the relationship you decide to have with your previous clients or centers of influence, or maybe you call them your spheres or whatever you call them. Other people in the network who, in your network who know what you do, but aren't realtors, right? So there's no competitive overlap, and they actually come across people to refer to you, whether that's your contacts and your clients. The relationship you decide to have with them and being intentional about developing a relationship with them, one where it gives you then opportunities to plant referral seeds, that is how you're going to ultimately be able to generate referrals in your business. Referrals don't grow on trees. You cannot build it and they will not come. You have to be intentional about the relationship you're going to have with your referral sources, those that either are referring you now, so stop ignoring them and get intentional about that, or the ones you want to refer you that you wish were referring you. But it comes down to, and what I teach is, this is a plan. This is a process. You got your prospecting plan, like you call expireds. That's one part of your plan, right? You've got a marketing plan because you do Facebook ads. Great. That's another part of your marketing plan. Over here, we have a referral plan, and it has to have its own activities, right? And its own end user, which are your referral sources, where you're actually going to be intentional about the type of relationship you're going to build with them, letting them know you're so thankful for them supporting your business and referring you. And then that gives you opportunities, of course, to show your gratitude, but plant very important referral seeds. So that's how they actually start to think about you. But we never ask, and we never offer to pay. I know realtors can pay realtors. That's not what I mean. But we never offer like the kickback commission under the table stuff. And we don't have to be overly promotional and gimmicky, like putting in our email signature, the greatest compliment you can give me as a referral. Sure. I always say no duh to that, right? I mean, of course, no one's paying attention to it anymore. So you can generate referrals without asking. But what I want people to understand is you have to be willing to release some of that old school advice realtors in particular have been beat over the heads with. And you have to understand that it's a different plan you have to put into your business, which means, like anything, it does take some work.
Yep. So you talked about a couple things that I want you to elaborate on. Okay. Number one, you talked about the relationship, right? And so I want you to elaborate when you say the relationship, like what do you mean and what's going on? I mean, obviously you have to build a good relationship, and you want to be intentional about that in every person you do business with. But give us some of the granular details on what you mean when you talk about the relationship. What are we doing during the process to build that relationship?
So ultimately, think about the last time, let me explain it this way. Think about the last time someone did something for you unexpected, but was really nice. Like it was unexpected, but it was really nice. And it really showed you that they cared. How did you feel?
I felt like, you feel a feeling like of kind of like, I don't want to say love, but it's like a warmth. It's just like a, wow, that's really cool that you did that. You know what I mean?
Right. And did you remember them?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right. And was there a part of you that, particularly if they did something from a business perspective, it could have been personal as well, but from a business perspective, did you sometimes think in your head for a little bit like, oh, I need to do something for them?
Yeah. It's the law of reciprocity, right?
It is, but it's not taking advantage of it.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of people teach the law of reciprocity, and they're like, oh, when someone tells you you're awesome and they love working with you, then pounce on them and ask them for 15 referrals. Right. My thing is that when we are talking about these relationships that we want to build, it is being intentional about how we impact how that person feels about us. And if we come from a place of gratitude and thankfulness and being authentic, right, then of course you should want to take care of the people who take care of your business. They send you referrals or could send you referrals. Like it would kind of be crazy then to decide you're going to ignore them, right? So of course, if they're taking care of your business with referrals, and then you're just making sure that you're reciprocating that, right? You're taking care of them. Now, it's not like you have to go give them referrals, because you probably can't refer everybody who refers you. So the idea here is like, then how do you show care? How do you let them know? How do you impact how they feel about you by letting them know how much you appreciate them? And the truth is that runs the gamut for people, right? I mean, I have different industries other than just real estate agents in my program, but just thinking about some of the things that real estate agents have done, right? The difference is when they know who their referral sources are. So that is actually the first step. We never jump to the what are we going to do from the relationship perspective. We start with, well, who are we going to do it for? Because that dictates what we should do. But ultimately what they're doing is they're trying to make sure these people understand how they feel about them, that they're thankful. And then we do it in a way to be memorable and meaningful, so we can actually be remembered. We can stay top of mind, which means we're doing it enough to where it's like has an impact and they kind of build on each other, but not something every day, every week, or even every month, like 12 times a year. So that's way too much. And in that way, we're also allowing ourselves to use language about referrals. Specifically, it's just the easiest referral seed to plant is the thank you for referring so-and-so to me, right? We call it the thank by name, right? So that's the easiest referral seed to plant. It should be in all your thank you notes when someone refers someone to you, but it's also other ways that we use that language so that they're getting taken care of. They're like, oh my gosh, that's such a sweet card that I got. Or I can't believe they sent me this. Or, oh my gosh, they remembered it's Mother's Day and I'm a mom of 1,000 children, right? That's so nice that they remembered that. And we're just subtly using the opportunity to plant referral seeds. Most people, they hear this explanation and they're like, it can't be that simple. being a good human is actually that simple. Like, just be like, hey, you know what? You send referrals to my business. Maybe I should take care of you and say thank you more than just, in an email or a text message when I'm running to appointments, right? Maybe I should actually be intentional about taking you to coffee or lunch or doing it virtually right now. But maybe I should be intentional about the relationship we have. Maybe I should just pay attention to how I can help you, right? Yeah. Maybe I should send you, some gift for Labor Day because you're a workaholic. I mean, whatever it is, right? Like, everybody comes up with something different. That's the beauty of what I teach, because it has to be all about your referral sources who are different from my referral sources. Right. And it needs to be authentic to who I am. And if I'm doing that and I'm being memorable and meaningful, so not your e-newsletter and not your pretty shiny magazine that is a sales promotional piece, do those things in your prospecting and marketing. Just keep them out of your referral plan. And allowing yourself to deepen a relationship with your referral sources, it doesn't take much. And it doesn't take, I got to go get a beer with you every Thursday night so that you'll remember me and you'll send referrals to me. It doesn't take that either. I think you just have to shift your mentality around it.
Yep. No. I love it. Listen, and you got my wheels spinning right now, because obviously I learn as much from this show as my audience does. And so the part two about what you said earlier is really building out a system or a strategy, right? Making it like part of your lead generation, like when you call expireds or for sale by owners or whatever, really creating a strategy around this. So talk to me, if you would, a little bit about what that might look like for a real estate agent.
Yeah. So here's the thing. The way that I teach it in my Growth by Referrals program is we actually build out your plan for an entire year. Right? Because we want to get really clear that we have the right cadence to our touch point. We call them touch points in the program. Just think about them as outreach, right? The outreach we're going to do to our referral sources. We want to have the right cadence, and we want to make sure we're doing the right things, and we're not like doing all of them in 6 months and then nothing the other 6 months of the year, right? So there's a cadence to it. We want to plan out the budget. There's a few key things that I teach in terms of what these touch points need to be. You are not going to be allowed to be in my program and build a touch point plan. It's a whole bunch of emails you're going to send. I'm going to reject it. I'm not going to approve your plan if that's the case. And so we're thinking about it from a 12-month perspective, right? So whether it's September to September or January to December, it doesn't really matter. We're building out this 12-month plan. Some amazing things happen when you put some intentionality behind a plan that's going to be in place for an entire year. And when I say we build out a plan, we are building this in an Excel spreadsheet that has like boxes for 12 months. Like, this is not complicated stuff. But obviously, I've taught my students, like, okay, here's how you want to think about what these touch points will look like. But we build them out for 12 months. And then we say, okay, now we look at each of these touch points we're going to do. And the average, I tell folks we're looking at 4 to 8 touch points a year, but really most people fall in 6 to 8. And a lot of that has to do with how they're memorable and meaningful and the memory runway and how long they're remembered from their touch point perspective. And so most people are going to be 6 to 8 touch points a year. And of course, I teach my students, there's some must-haves and some nice-to-haves and things like that we put in the plan. But then we look at each individual touch point and we figure out how we're going to execute this, right? And because these fall into categories, it's really simple for me to tell my students, okay, so you've decided to do an event. You don't have to, but if it's one of your touch points and you want to do an event for your referral sources, great. But an event takes a project plan, let's be honest. It's step by step. You got to pick the date and the location and the caterer, or it's virtual or whatever. And you can outsource this stuff. You can hire other people or use other people on your team to make some of this stuff happen, right? So each touch point is then looked at individually, and then it's loaded into your workflow process or your calendar or your to-do list or whatever system you use that tells you it's time to do something. Then I don't have any technology within my program. I'm like, okay, this is what you want to do. Now go put it into the system and software you're already using. Lots of people means they're putting it into their calendar, right? They're like, hey, in December, I want to send out a Christmas card to the family. So in November, I'm going to make a note that I need to hire a photographer to take the picture, right? It's that kind of simple stuff. People try to overcomplicate this all the time, but we create a system behind it because for the next 12 months, we know exactly what we're doing and we know who's doing what and how we're going to do it. And it's right there to remind us to do it. And if some things can be put into Asana and can be put into Process Street and some other of those, apps and cloud-based software, those SaaS programs that actually can tell you it's time to do something, great. And if we can automate something, great. But we're just taking an intentionality behind, hey, this is a relationship I'm building and I can't pay a robot to build this relationship for me. So I'm going to have to probably be involved some.
Yeah, no. Listen, you're speaking my language. I love this. And during that whole, when you were telling us about, well, here's why I fail. Okay. I fail because my mind immediately goes to how can I automate? How can I automate? How can I automate? And what happens typically during automation is you lose that authenticity that would normally come along with when you do take time to write something out and send a handwritten thank you card to somebody. And so I've got to, I really have to kind of to watch myself in that regard, because on some level there's some things you can automate, but there are some things that really need to be thought out, because that's where the authenticity comes into play. And that's what that's what moves that person, right? In order to feel obligated to give you a referral is because you touched them, right? You hit an emotional chord. And, with automation, it's really hard to do something like that, because what happens is when you automate something, it's like when you do something that's intentional, like write a thank you card, you're putting an energy behind that's received on the other end. With automation, you can't do that. And so another question I was going to have for you, and I don't want to go too long here, but we've got, maybe 15 more minutes. Hopefully you can stay with me. Is when you're talking about hundreds, like we literally now have, over the last 5 years, we're probably over 1,000 past clients. It's like, when you get to that level, Stacey, what do you like? Talk to me about how would we even start something like this, and what would that look like with so many people?
Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing. And this is a question I get all the time from real estate agents. Like when they're first hearing this and they're like trying to wrap their heads around it, and they're thinking about their databases and their A, B, C's, and D's, right? And like how you've been taught for years and years and years to consider, right, your database, right? We gotta, like, everybody's called a client, even if they've never done business with you, and you've got your A's and your B's and your C's. And so it gets overwhelming. And agents who are successful and do well have hundreds, or not, if not thousands and thousands of contacts in their database. And so this is a very common question that I get from agents. And it's one that you really have to understand, that your whole big database, I just want you to set it aside. It's beautiful. It is a thing of beauty, I'm sure, right? For every agent, your database is a thing of beauty, and it is an asset in your business. But what I want you to pull from that huge asset is your business's biggest asset. And so the biggest asset your business has is your ability to identify who your referral sources are. So the easiest way to do this is to reverse engineer it, because that way we don't make any mistakes. It's not the totality of the best way to do it, but it is the easiest way to get started. There's a totality to it as well, and I'll talk about both. But just pull me the last 3 years of new clients you've worked with. So not clients who bought a house from you 3 years ago and then came back and had you sell it this year, right? Like not repeat clients. Pull me a list of the clients you've had for the last 3 or 4 years. And then if your database captured the information, because you took the time to put it in, right, where that client came from, you'll know if it was a for sale by owner that you called, or an expired listing that you got, right? Or if it was referred to you, right, by, your CPA, or if it was referred to you by your neighbor. You'll know if it came through a Facebook ad. But if your database has captured that information, or you can actually remember it, like some people have to do like a walk down memory lane and be like, where did Sally Joe come from? Like, where did Sam Thomas come from? Let me remember. Maybe it's in my calendar. Maybe it's in email threads. Some people have to spend some time unpacking this. Some people have it in a database. But what I need is, where did they come from? So here's all your clients from 2020. Here's all your clients from 2018, 2017. Where did they come from? Once I know where they came from, then I ultimately know that's their source. And what I'm looking for are the referral sources. So now I have who the client is, right? And if they were referred to you, and I have that referral source's name. So I just kind of eliminate the ones who came through Facebook ads and for sale by owners. I just kind of take them off the list, and I'm left with your businesses, my businesses, everybody's business's biggest asset, which is the list of people who've actually already referred you at least once. Because that is the place we want to start. If you have previous referral sources, your referral strategy has a layered approach. And of course, we want to focus on people who aren't referring us, that we want to refer us. But if you have existing referral sources, it is so much easier to start there. So I still focus on, like, stop trying to create that client into a referral source when you have like 20 right here that have referred you over the last couple of years, that you probably could get another referral from if you did the right thing and built a referral plan and executed on it. So we start by, it's great, 1,000 people, but who are the 20 or 12 or 7 or 77 people in your database that have actually referred you in the last 2 to 4 years? That's the list I want to work with. That's the list you're going to start with. And I'll tell you, when you can identify who are your previous year's referral sources, like not 10 years ago, right? But if you can identify who's referred you in the past couple of years, right? Everything changes because you're going to view them differently, and you're going to immediately think to yourself, right? Oh my gosh, that person's referred me a person every year for the last 3 years, and I haven't talked to them in 12 months. Yeah. So you may feel a little bad when you look at the list, or you're going to look at this list and you're going to be like, where's Mike? I get beers with Mike once a month. We talk business. He says he's sending people to me, but his name's not on my list at all. Mm-hmm. Like, why am I spending so much time with Mike? I mean, not that you probably don't love hanging out, right? But like, why am I spending so much time with him when I'm looking at how I'm going to be intentional about my referral sources and he's not even on the list? Now, that is the easiest way to dig into your database and pull out your asset of referral sources.
Well, and let me just interrupt you real quick, because I can make this extremely transparent for real estate agents. Guys, this is no different than having a hot, warm, and cold prospect list, right? It essentially, you have leads in your database that want to buy right in the next 30 days, right? And then you have 30 to 60 days, and you have 90 plus days. She's talking about starting with your database hot client, you're essentially your hot database clients who have referred business to you before. So these in your real estate business, it looks like people who want to buy a house or sell a house in the next 30 days. And so it's so funny, because you see the correlation there is that really you're just shifting off, potential buyers and sellers, and shifting onto your past client database, and then segmenting that data out.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I want you to keep your prospecting stuff, right? You've got the people who want to buy in the next 30 days. And I'm hoping you have a process for how you communicate with them and contact them and get them to say yes to you being their agent, right? That's prospecting. It's the same thing with marketing, right? But with referrals, there's another piece to your puzzle. You're going to run 3 plans, not just 2 plans, right? Yeah. And so from that perspective, I need you to know who your referral sources are. I need you to know who they are, so that we can build a plan around them. And then throughout the course of a year, you're going to do 6 to 8 touch points to show gratitude and thankfulness and impact how they feel about you, while giving you an opportunity to plant referral seeds and stay top of mind to be able to generate more referrals from them. So I don't want you to shift off anything unless something's not working.
No. That's not what I was saying. Basically, what I was saying is, like, usually you give more time and attention to people who are going to buy or sell in the next 30 days.
Exactly. You're right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And same thing with your database is if people are referring you clients, those to me are your hot database past clients. And so you would treat those differently than people who had never referred you any business, or people who are going to buy or sell in a year.
Correct. Absolutely. And here's the thing. I'm only building a referral plan for those that have referred me in the past. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not going to have like another little plan that's like, you know what, but I've got these 15 people who know everybody in this community, and I want them referring me. I'm going to have a little side plan for the people that haven't referred me yet, but I want them to. And it is a small list, so stop thinking the other 1,000 people in your database go on there, because I know some agents just thought that, right? It's a smaller list of people you wish were referring you. And that's another process we go through to cultivate and turn them into referral sources, because once they refer you once, they just drop into the main list of your referral sources. And now you've got this plan you do year in and year out, right? It's like, one of my agents that went through the program, we call it the wash, rinse, repeat. She's like, there's just one touch point she does every year around cookies. And now her referral sources have come to expect it, right? And so she started out in the single digits of referral received, and she was like, it was amazing to get to double digits of referrals so quickly, and then watch that continue year after year, right? Because the idea is like, she looked at her group of referral sources and she said, I'm going to take care of them. And then I got the smaller group over here that I wish were referring me, and I'm going to cultivate them into referral sources. And if I get them turned into referral sources, I'll add more people to this group and keep trying to build referral sources until I get to a capacity issue where I don't need any more referral sources, which, let's be honest, is a great problem to have. But I did mention something about the totality of your list. So if you're pulling your clients and you're looking at where they came from, and then you're just looking at those that were referred. So you've got your list of referral sources and the clients they referred. If you want a totality to your list, you've got to go pull all those prospects, and you've got to figure out where they came from, what their source is. And once you know what their source is, these are the ones who just didn't say yes to working with you. They either chose another realtor, they went in a different direction, whatever it is, they decided not to sell at that time, and they kind of came off the list. But if they were referred to you, that referral source matters too. So if you want the most comprehensive list of your referral sources, you've got to look at the referral sources who referred prospects who turned into clients, and then those other prospects who didn't become clients. And that gives you a full list. It's a little much, right, for some people to bite off in the very beginning, which is why I say just start with what your database will reveal to you, whether you have a database or not. Just start off with what you can handle and manage to get a list going of existing referral sources.
Yeah. And so, guys, what she's saying there essentially is that, yeah, it's great when someone refers to you, business to you and it closes, but it's just as impactful when someone refers business to you and for whatever reason it doesn't close. It was given with the same intention. And so you want to give the same care and attention to those people as you do to the people where you have that business actually closes, correct?
Yeah, we never, ever, ever reward for outcome. Whether they became a client or not, that's on you. It's not really on the referral source. Sure. Sometimes it's on the setup of the referral source, but really it's probably on you or external factors completely and totally outside of your control, right? Yeah. So we never reward based on outcome. We always reward, right, based on the habit or the act of actually referring, regardless of outcome.
So let me ask you this, because I know another question agents will have, because, I mean, let's face it, we're cheap, is, I'm good, I know in someone's mind, they're thinking, oh gosh, well, I'm going to have to spend hundreds of dollars, on each person doing this. And it's like, and what they fail to see is, it's an investment, right? It really is an investment. It's that you're enacting that law of reciprocation, where everybody wins. And that's not the intent. But what I'm saying is, what kind of conversation do you have with somebody that says, they have that mindset, well, gosh, I just don't have hundreds of dollars to be able to do this?
Yeah. So I always say shoestring budgets are allowed, and sometimes they're preferred, because the truth is, if you have in your mind right now, oh, I just got to buy a whole bunch of gifts for people and send it out to them a couple of times a year, you're going for the easy button, right? You're going for the easy route here. And the variety of the touch points of what you do, they have to look different. So there's an intentionality behind you being able to make sure how you feel and how you want to take care of your referral sources is actually, you get it across, right? So the truth is, if you come to me and you're like, I got thousands and thousands of dollars to spend, I'm like, oh gosh, you're going to go looking for what's easy because you've got money, right? If you come to me and you're like, listen, after I'm in your program and I've paid for that, I only have X number of dollars set aside, I've got hundreds, or maybe I have 1,000, or what does this look like, right? We specifically talk about what does it look like to be intentional with your relationships when you don't have a lot of money to spend. Now, again, we're also talking about what's the number of your referral sources. If you've got 12 referral sources, that's just not an expensive number, right? Even if I'm going to do 8 things a year, right? Some of those things are just a handwritten thank you card or a personalized Christmas card. Some of those could be a little bit more intense. I mean, I've definitely done things that are in the higher end budgetary things, because I love to test things out. Just with my poor referral sources, I test things out on them. But the truth is, most of what I see my students end up doing is they're looking at how many referral sources they have, and then they're figuring out what their touch points are that allows them to take care of them. And then when we run the budget numbers, and if most of them are like, okay, if I did all of this and spent X number of dollars for the year, and I got one referral and made a $3 or $7 or $10 or $20,000 commission, my ROA is going to be 2,000%. I'm okay. I'm good. So I had them look at it in relationship to, if you spent this money and only got one referral, and that commission was, typically real estate commissions are in the thousands, right? And that covers that budget, then you're going to be fine. Now, here's the thing. If you go through my program and only get one referral, we are going to have a conversation, because that's not enough. That is not success. And so on top of that, then of course, the ROI is there from a very small budget. Everyone gets to be a little bit different in this and how they look at it. But I have people who are like, I have no money. How do I build this? And there's a way to build it. And I have people who are like, I've got money. I'm like, great. We get to have a little bit more fun.
Yep. No, I love it. I love it. And what I really want people, especially agents, to understand is that, this is, when you look at a granular level and you talk about lead acquisition cost, People I know in a team leader role understand that the lead acquisition costs for buyer and seller leads are exponentially higher than doing business with referral clients, right? We know that we're spending, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars a year on generating leads. And when we talk about, spending, a few hundred or a few $1,000 on referrals, it's so much, and I hate to use the word cheaper, but the lead acquisition cost is so much lower.
It is.
When you tap into your database, and it is done with so much less stress and anxiety, and people just need to understand that it is so much easier to work on a relationship and provide a service for somebody who already knows, likes, and trusts you. It's just night and day. And listen, guys, I've done it for years and years and years and beat my head against the wall. And when you have a database in real estate and you don't nurture that database, you're basically every year you're starting over at zero. And that's a scary thought. That means every year, and listen, I've been burnt out on the phones before, but if you don't nurture your database, essentially you wake up every year, you start from zero and you have to grind the phones every single year. And you've got this beautiful database with hundreds of clients that's just completely being neglected. And I would just say, stop that. While it's okay to continue to grow your business and call people, you need to get intentional about your database, and you need to get intentional about going out and getting more repeat referral business. And I'm the poster child for that. And that's why I said, before we started the show, Stacey, is that I thought this would be a great show. And I thought this would be received very well by our Agent Revolution community, because people don't want to grind their entire lives. People do want to be able to take some time and just, have a great conversation and be themselves in front of somebody without, having to, be this completely polished, like robotic human being. And so this is great content. Let me ask you this, because you've talked about your program. I really want to give you the end of the show to talk a little bit about your program, how people can get involved in it, and anything else you want to talk about as it relates to the program.
So the program's called Growth by Referrals. It goes by the same website, growthbyreferrals.com. And we work with people two different ways. There's an independent study version where it's more like just the online program, where there is a Facebook group that supports it, where you get access to ask questions and other students and myself. And then there's a VIP where we're going to work one-on-one together actually for a year. You're still going to get everything with independent study, but you're going to get access to me. And so there's some things that make the program unique and special in terms of, even at independent study level, when you do anything and upload your work into the system, like when you actually go through and identify your referral sources or build your referral plan or start turning in your quarterly results, they're actually being reviewed by me. That's not something I outsource to my team. And I actually go through and like I said earlier, like I will not approve something. It's very true. I will approve or not approve something. So you're moving in the right direction. And I think that makes the Growth by Referrals program different. So of course, if people are interested, they can go check it out, growthbyreferrals.com. But actually the place I would prefer people to start, right? If you're like, I got to get in this program, great, we want you, come on, right? But most people are like, I just need to figure out if this is actually the direction I want to go in and grow my business. We have a great simple 9-question quiz that you can take. You just go to referralsquiz.com. You're going to answer 9 questions. And it's going to tell you what level of a referral ninja you are. So that's just kind of like how we do it. There's 3 different levels. I want you to be at the referral ninja master level. And so that is, in our world, the red belt level. That does not match, obviously, belt colors, right? If you're in Taekwondo or karate, but at our level, it's the red belt level. That's where we want you to be. But only 2% of people who actually take the quiz are going to land at the master level. Over 80% are going to land at the very beginning level. And so you take the quiz, you figure out which of these 3 levels am I at, and then it'll give you some roadmaps and some give you a roadmap with ideas of like, okay, you're a beginner. You're at the beginning. Like, let's take you to the master level. Here's your gaps you need to overcome. And I find that that's a much better place for people to start in terms of, where am I? Where do I need to go? Can I see myself doing the work to get there? I can. Okay, great. Then go check out the Growth by Referrals program. So I think taking that Referral Ninja quiz is such a better place to start for people, because it'll give you a really clear idea. As long as you're honest with your answers, it'll give you a really clear idea of like, hey, this is where I am. And now, do I want to put the work in to get to where I think I want to go? And that's an easy way to do it. And that's just at referralsquiz.com.
Yep. Well, I love it. Love it. Before I let you get back to the whoa man cave, is there anything else you want to share with our audience?
I'm so going to tell my husband you called it that. The whoa man cave. Yeah, we're just not allowed to call it the she shed. That's
Okay.
that's the language of the office that's been banned. Here's the number one thing I would tell everybody. Referrals, they're not about you. It does matter that you're an amazing realtor because nobody refers crappy work. But ultimately, remember, referrals aren't about you, right? They are about your referral source helping somebody that they know who needs an awesome real estate agent, and they're trusting and choosing you. Which means, since referrals aren't about you, they are about, though, your relationship with your referral sources. So the number one thing I would employ everybody to do today is go figure out and identify who your referral sources are. I have an entire chapter of my book, chapter 8 in the book, walks you through it in much more detail than you and I went through it for people who need that. That's generating business referrals without asking. It's available wherever books are sold. But the number one thing I need you to do is go and identify who your referral sources are. Trust me, when you have that clarity around who is sending you business, lots of things start changing in your business and in your mind. And that's most important for you having motivation to make some forward movement.
Money. Love it. Well, as usual, I love sharing these stories week after week because I know this show is literally changing agents' financial lives, my own included. Do me a big favor. If you know someone that might enjoy the podcast, please share it with them. And if you like the podcast, please go to wherever you listen to podcasts, make sure and subscribe. And if you like Miss Stacey Randall's episode, give us a 5-star review. Don't forget to visit MikeWallLive.com where you can get 8 hours of absolutely free real estate business training. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you again soon. Stacey, thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Bye for now.
Bye.